So race start, Piastri from second on the inside line, Verstappen on conventionally the cleaner line on the outside, but it's a short run to the first turn. And it is Piastri that gets the jump as Verstappen tries to come across, hasn't got a great start. And at this point, it seems pretty doomed for Verstappen to try and keep this lead into the first corner. But Max is never one to give up a corner, so he tries once again. Sweeps to the outside line. Oscar right up the inside, cleanly done. They get through the apex. They're pretty much absolutely together. And from this point, actually, Oscar now, in terms of the FIA guidelines, has the corner. He needs to get his front wheels alongside the mirrors to be significantly up the inside to be able to use the road on the exit. He is clearly there, and this is going to be a forlorn attempt from Verstappen to try and keep the place. And sure enough, through they go. Oscar keeps his car on the road, Max does not, and Max keeps the place. So that is why there's a penalty incoming for Verstappen. We can see it more clearly on board with Oscar then. It's a really nice getaway. He gets a great launch. That initial traction phase is just superb. So we're already up the inside, and now really the corner is his, unless he's really safe through this corner and allows Max the space on the outside. But he doesn't have to. All he has to have is his front axle roughly here to have entitlement to the corner, according to the FIA guidelines, and clearly he's beyond that. So long as he's in control of his car and he doesn't purposefully usher the driver on the outside off, then this is Oscar's corner. And you can see his steering as we play it through, just solidly to the left. He's in control and just turns to the left and keeps, critically, his car on the racetrack. So that is Oscar through into the race lead. In theory, only Max cut the corner and stays ahead. So it's not really a fair move, this one, from Verstappen, despite his arguments over the radio and Red Bull's protestations after it. And we can see once again on board with Max. Now, he did claim that he was forced off by Oscar, but actually, as we jump on board with Max, you can see the damage is done immediately. He looks over to the left-hand side. He knows really that he's in trouble. The only thing left for him is to do a Hail Mary move around the outside and basically hope either Oscar gives him a little bit of space, but actually he's carried so much speed in here, he's never really going to make the corner anyway. So the only other hope now is that Oscar also doesn't make the corner and he can claim that it's some sort of big mix-up between the two and they should just be able to leave with neither of them making the corner, with Max back in front. And if we play this one through, once we get to here, it doesn't matter where Oscar, you could vanish the McLaren. The McLaren could completely disappear and there is no chance that Max is keeping this car on the racetrack with that angle and that attack that he had on the way in. Not in a month of Sundays is he keeping that car on the road with his entry. But off he goes, and it's a kind of typical Max approach, this one, to say he was forced off, use that outside track, and try and fight it out with the stewards. But we've got the data, and here we can see, first of all, the data of Max versus Oscar on the first corner. So Verstappen here is in the red, Piastri is in the blue, and their approach initially is very similar. You can see the straight line speed advantage coming in as Oscar's got the better getaway here. And actually, into the first part, on the initial braking zone, Oscar is at least a match, if not even a little bit more. He's a little bit quicker than Verstappen initially. So Max releases the brakes coming into the corner. So through the apex of turn one, he's carrying now a lot more speed to try and sweep around the outside. And you can see him releasing the brakes just down here, where Piastri holds it on the blue line. Max just has two tiny stabs at it, but really he's got off the brakes and he's just tried to swing the speed in a completely ambitious attempt to keep the lead. And he was never going to keep it on the racetrack by doing so either. And in fact, as we look at this bit of data, you can see Max is actually even quicker on turn one, lap one, with 100 kilos of fuel, no apex and medium tyres than he was on his qualifying lap the day before on soft tyres where he was about to get pole. Coming through the apex of turn one, he's actually carrying more speed, which again highlights quite how ambitious this move was and why he was very unlikely to ever be able to keep it on the track. But we've seen this quite a few times before with Max, where he will use the runoff areas, either in attack or defence, and then try and claim to the stewards he was forced off or entitled to the space on the outside afterwards. We've seen it in Austria last year, before the contact with Lando, where he kept the place on the outside. We've seen it in Austin at the start of the race, passing Norris, later on trying to defend from Norris as well, and we saw it in Mexico. We also saw it a few years ago with a very similar move in Jeddah. So this is the restart back in 2021. You've got Verstappen on pole. You've got Hamilton alongside him, crucial for the championship. And it's a very similar approach for Max, which is basically, I'm going to leave the first corner first, penalise me if you want to. And this time it's a lot more egregious, I have to say. Hamilton is much more clearly ahead. Verstappen is absolutely chancing his arm coming around the outside, arguing that he was forced off. But really, he's never entitled to this space. Comes through, bounces wide, and Esteban Ocon sneaks underneath the two of them. And once again, if we look on board, you can see that really there's no chance that Max was ever going to pull this one off. But it's a similar sort of scenario and a similar mentality from Verstappen to just try and, whatever you do, get your car in front and then argue it with the stewards. And he did that again on this day. So we come through, he takes the place quite clearly off the road. And this was the time with Michael Massey, where there was a deal being made in the pit lane, where Max was basically told either go back to third behind Ocon and Hamilton or take a penalty. That didn't happen in the race this year. He was simply slapped with a 5-second penalty because there was mitigating circumstances of the first lap incident. But nonetheless, it's another incident of Verstappen taking the place, having track position, and basically calling the stewards to make a decision whether to penalise him or not. But actually, as a fan of the sport, what we want to see here is we want to see hard racing, we want to see fair racing, and we want to see overtaking moves for key positions being made on the track rather than in the stewards' room later on and then some complaints about it, which we're seeing a little bit too often with Max, in my opinion. So something is going to be ongoing, but it's just the style that Max has always done, and he didn't get away with it in Jeddah.
I got a great launch and got myself alongside, and from that point, I knew that I obviously had to brake quite late, but I knew that I had enough of my car alongside to take the corner. We obviously both braked extremely late, but I think for me, I braked as late as I could while staying on the track, and I think it was, how it unfolded is how it should have been dealt with.